What's up, everybody? I hope everyone is having an awesome day or a night, I guess, depending on when you're watching the video. But as you can tell from the title, yes, I went and I saw the new Batman. And before I get into all of my words, because I literally just came home and started recording, because as with most people, this was easily and personally my most anticipated movie of the entire year. Batman is a character that has always been my favorite for honestly as long as I can remember. And while I understand some people play the character a little different than others, I pretty much will always have unconditional love for the character of Batman himself. And I feel as if this is a film that has always had higher and higher expectations as more and more of the promotions were released to the public. And let me tell you, my endorphins were pretty much through the roof when the movie actually began to play. Director Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson definitely brought their own take on the character, as well as many other directions that I'm sure I'll talk about a little bit later in this video, because this story follows a little bit more of a green Batman, 2 years to be in fact. And I thought that that was a great path to take this character down. It leads to a more grounded and realistic Batman, and a little bit more of a relatable man that's under the mask that we, the audience, can really dive into, and it kind of forces us to think about his choices and his actions, and even maybe what we would do if we were in the situation ourselves. If you couldn't tell, I thought Batman was a fantastic movie with an interesting and engaging plot and story. It had characters with depth and chemistry with each other, and all of the actors truly acted as if they were just people living their lives in the city of Gotham. It had amazingly composed music that seemed to fit whatever tone that they were trying to achieve from scene to scene, and it had set pieces that were grounded and real, but it truly showcased what the Batman character is all about. But don't get me wrong, with all of those accomplishments, there were definitely some things that I didn't really care for. I feel as if we're in a time with cinema where I'm not really sure if it's maybe because we're running out of ideas, or if it's laziness, or simply just an easy way to maybe tell a compelling story but with easy guidelines. To break down a little bit of the plot, this Batman is starting down the path of the Batman that we know today. He's still learning his way through the criminal underworld of Gotham and is surely making some mistakes along the way. But when a cunning and masked and sadistic killer starts to make its way through the city of Gotham, leaving a trail of cryptic clues for the character of Batman himself, it truly shows us what Batman and Gotham's resolve is to push through all of the chaos. But when the path starts to lead a little bit closer to home of Bruce Wayne, it even forces a more engaging resolve with our character, as he now has to forge new relationships and dig even deeper into his arsenal to unmask the masked killer, to not only bring vengeance, but justice to the abuse of power and corruption and liberate the streets of Gotham. With all of that being said, this is yet just another movie of what society could truly or eventually be like if the lower class is pushed to a point where they feel as if they have nowhere to go. It's a story of a rejected citizen and a classic Joker or even the Hunger Games type of story about how being beaten down by the patriarchy and what it could do to that said person if they had nothing to lose but everything to gain. Not gaining power from a magical rock or a meteorite from space, but power from the people in the same position as himself, and how all it takes is a little push in the wrong direction to create all out chaos. And while I feel as if it wasn't necessarily the focus of the movie as a whole, it was definitely the outline of the plot. I would also say that a lot of the second and the third act felt a little similar to The Dark Knight in a way that we're dealing with the same type of villain. While in this film, we studied a little bit more of the Riddler and who he was and what his motivations were, and how unlike the Joker he was, where in a sense he was just fueled by chaos, or in a demented way felt as if him and the Batman character in his universe completed each other. Some of the scenes where like the Riddler is giving Batman and Gotham a message over video and has his hostage in the background, or how every eventual step of the Riddler's or Joker's plan became a little bit more extravagant as Batman was just a mouse playing in their game. It felt a little bit more like deja vu, as if these were seeds that I've already seen be played out before. While director Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson definitely took the character of Batman in a little bit more of a detailed and character driven time frame than we've ever seen before, I also appreciate the direction that he took with a multitude of other characters, starting with Jim Gordon. Gordon is still a lieutenant in this time frame, but he's displayed as a more experienced and confident man in his abilities and what he brings to the table. He has accomplishments and goals that are separate from his relationship with Batman, and he's recognized by his city and the police department that he works for. But he's still naive and definitely has lessons to learn on his journey to becoming commissioner. He doesn't have the sturdy and solid relationship with Batman at the beginning of this movie, who is still regarded as a vigilante with no real accomplishments or devotion to his city, unlike Jim Gordon. But as the mystery of the Riddler and the mob crime that has plagued the city starts to hit a little bit closer to home, and things start to make less and less sense, he begins to learn that Batman might be the only man he can trust in the city. Jeffrey Wright truly brings his own genuine take on the character, forming a more friendly partnership with Batman compared to a more serious and professional business like relationship of past big screen adaptations. His chemistry on screen with Robert Pattinson is evidently clear from the first scene that you have with the characters, and it truly hits its pinnacle when Gordon must choose who he really aligns with and trusts and puts his own self on the line for the sake of Batman at the police department. Zoe Kravitz is also a very welcome addition to the role of Catwoman. This is our fourth rendition of the character. I've said with most of the characters, we really take our time to know who Selina Kyle is. She has her own life and backstory in the city of Gotham, and relationship that she's built, and relationships that she's tried to hide away. And when we're first introduced to the character, she only aligns herself with Batman for her own gain and the mission that she herself is on, and only sees Batman as a way to help her in her own personal situation. But as with Gordon, as the plot starts to unfold and the relationships that she's had are starting to be lost, she must make life changing and timely decisions on who she can trust and what she can do in the situation that she's in. Matt Reeves and Zoe Kravitz also don't run away from the fact that Selina Kyle is a beautiful character and woman in her universe. She uses her charm and seduction to get information that might be vital to her situation, and then uses her slender frame, athletic ability, and grace to further her goals in the shadows. Her relationship that she forms with Batman is of pure lust and compatibility that the characters have when they're in their alter egos, and I think that they did a good balance on how to showcase the relationship that was forming. I also love the idea that Matt Reeves and Andy Serkis took with the character of Alfred and the relationship that he had with Bruce Wayne. It was different from the fatherly figure that he was always made out to be, reliable and understanding of Bruce at all times and always there to pick him up when he was down. But I felt as if this was a little bit more of a grounded and realistic take on the character, what it would truly be like to go through the tragedy of losing dear friends and what it would look like if their son was left behind in all of the chaos. It's understandable that in some scenarios, a little bit more of a distant and cold bond would start to form between them. A kid that's closed off from his emotions in the midst of a traumatic experience, as well as a grown man trying to cope with the same situation. In the film, it just acted as if it was another lesson for Bruce to learn on his journey to becoming the Batman that Gotham truly needs. But it felt new and it felt fresh, and it fit the tone of what the setting of the movie was trying to display. I would say Paul Dano also did an amazing job as the Riddler. He's a character that has had people scratching their heads thinking, could he truly be a villain of a 3 hour blockbuster movie, reviving a fan favorite character like Batman? And while I pointed out some of the similarities that I found between his character and the Joker, I also felt as if he was definitely bringing his own defining character traits and moments to the movie. Starting off as an uneasy and psychotic man making his first appearance to the public, but definitely becoming a more relatable and focused villain that has the Gotham Police Department and Batman constantly on their toes, always being one step ahead and posing as a actually really smart, cunning, and unpredictable threat for Batman and Gotham to overcome together. And by the end, you could truly understand his point of view of what vengeance truly meant to the society and the social structure that he was trying to put into place, and really brings the tone of a no nonsense villain willing to do anything for the cause that he believes in. But of course, that is leading us into the man that is playing the Bat himself, Robert Pattinson. There was a lot of speculations from his casting, and some people would say rightfully so, but I don't understand. Robert Pattinson is a good actor that doesn't really turn in any performances in any of his movies. He's a true man of his craft, and yet again, that was displayed in this film. Robert Pattinson is acting a more green Batman, as I said, and he's still learning about who he is as Batman, as well as the role that he has to play for the sake of his city, as well as still juggling what it means to be Bruce Wayne, a Batman that hasn't truly gone through any threat of this magnitude, and a villain that could truly match him at every step of the way. He's forced into difficult situations physically, but as well as emotionally, that he'll have to overcome as either Batman or Bruce Wayne to really show his strength and resolve for the sake of the people helping him and for the sake of the helpless citizens of Gotham. Without being as big as someone like Ben Affleck, Robert Pattinson's Batman is still gritty and a Batman that sometimes still doesn't hold his punches, but still has his high regard for life. He's brutal in the name of striking fear into the criminals that run the city, but is still an everyday man. He uses a lot of his detective skills in this movie, which I feel as if has been lacking from some of the other takes of the character. And it was definitely appreciated to watch Batman not be able to solve everything with just his hands or by hiding in the shadows, but someone who was truly on a time constraint to solve puzzles and riddles that held the lives of some of Gotham's most important people. I'm truly excited to see where Robert Pattinson can take this role and character in the future if there ever is a sequel put into place. But with all of that being said, I would say my favorite part of the movie was definitely the addition of Thomas and Martha Wayne. We've always gotten the classic Batman origin in every rendition of the character on the big screen, and I've always felt like that was redundant, seeing how most people already knew the origin. This movie gave the liberty of diving into who the characters of Thomas and Martha Wayne were, which I feel as if is never touched in other renditions of the character. While Thomas Wayne can genuinely be a good man, sometimes good men can still do bad things that have consequences and repercussions. And while Martha Wayne tried to have her past erased, some things simply can't be. And sometimes the past can come to haunt you no matter how much you try to erase it. It brought a certain originality to the movie itself, separating it from takes in its past and elevating it to a status of its own. Again, it just felt fresh, and it gave Bruce Wayne a true emotional obstacle to face when faced with the truth of it all. There's plenty of other positives about this film that I'm sure I have failed to mention, but I just don't want this video to be 20 minutes long, so I'll mostly come out with a just straight longer video about this movie sometime in the future, maybe even a podcast or something. If you haven't been able to tell, I will definitely be recommending this movie, and it will be going on the S tier of the tier chart for the start of the channel, which is really awesome because I've always wanted to start this channel off on a positive note, because I feel as if there's a lot of new movies that come out that I don't really like, and I feel as if criticism of movies on YouTube has become more prevalent than positive criticism. So this is definitely an exciting time. Obviously, I'm just a new channel, and frankly, I'm just a guy who likes movies and loves to talk about them. Nothing makes talking about a movie more fun, either good or bad, than with people that have the same passion as you, and that's where you guys come in. I want to talk about movies and TV shows and definitely anime, seeing how that's mostly what I watch in my free time. And if any of that seems interesting to you, I would definitely say like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with me. But more importantly, definitely comment down below what you guys thought of Batman, as well as anything else that just simply might be on your mind, like recommendations for movies or shows or animes. Definitely animes. I need recommendations on those. I'm tired of watching week to week. I want to go on a journey that you guys can learn more about me as much as I learn and communicate with you guys. Like I said, nothing is more fun than talking to people that have the same interests and passions as you. And so I'm honestly super excited to be doing this with everybody. So definitely like and subscribe and share and all of the YouTube algorithm stuff that we need in order to find more people like us. If you guys are still here, I surely appreciate you guys for making it this far. And if you're not, well, I definitely hope to see you again. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, dear viewer.